We are back with episode number 3 of our Fall in Love podcast. I'm Quinn,
And I'm Carly.
where we take you on the roller coaster ride that is real estate and us being realtors. What are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about one of Quinn's biggest regrets of properties that we didn't buy for us personally. Why don't you tell us about your biggest regret ever?
Yeah, so I've got quite a few regrets when it comes to not buying properties, but this one just hit home for me. Why? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the house throughout this episode, and maybe you'll come to recognize, like me, that it was an opportunity for something amazing to be built. Or you could take Carly's side.
The realistic side.
Yeah, I might be ever the optimist. Her side was a little bit more pessimistic and that the work couldn't be done, and I'm over here saying, oh man, this house can be glorious.
So where was this house?
So this house was right by Centennial High School, just northwest of it a little bit. They're kind of on the main road. It faced it, and house was about 1,600 square feet. A little bit smaller. No, it was 1,800. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath. It needed some work. It was pretty old. It was pretty run down, and they had kind of started doing some things to the property. But it was on an acre, super mature trees, irrigated. It was everything we ever dreamed of.
Everything we ever dreamed of? Or everything you ever dreamed of?
I mean, acre, irrigated, trees. What more could you ask for? That's all you said you wanted. Property for horses.
Well, why don't you tell us about the house?
Okay. So, when I'm telling you about this house, you got to think about one thing. Think about Frank Lloyd Wright's homes that he's designed. This house had to be designed by Frank Lloyd Wright or someone close to him. It was that style. It was fantastic. It was dreamy. It's everything you could want in a house. You walked in, you had a centralized courtyard. Your house was essentially a U shape with a big courtyard in the middle. You could string up some bistros. You had all these windows, natural light. All the doors opened into the middle courtyard. It would be so cute at night.
So you want my opinion of it?
Yeah.
Well, Quinn obviously likes the Frank Lloyd style look, whatever that is. Not quite my style. This house was, like he said, U-shaped. First of all, odd. Second of all, it was very small and chopped up. It was very run down. It needed a full gut and remodel. Again, not a huge issue. The kitchen was retro. It was like 1800s Little House on the Prairie style kitchen. Again, I mean, it could have been fixed, but it needed a lot of work.
I don't really care about the size of the kitchen in a home. I don't end up spending that much time in there.
But I do, so it matters to me. And then the weirdest thing to me was you walk down the hallway of this home, and again, the whole house is concrete. It even had some concrete walls, if I remember correctly.
And the problem with this is?
It was odd.
It was beautiful.
Anyways, you're walking down your concrete hallway, and there is just rocks. And I mean loose rocks, just inside your hallway. Maybe it was like a bird perch. It looks like if you were going to the zoo and you see a parrot up on a stick with some rocks underneath it. That was totally the vibe it was giving me, and it was by a window. So maybe this guy loved birds, and maybe he had his own indoor parrot, and was his parrot spot. But first of all, like, what are you going to do with that design-wise? Like,
okay, so hear me out.
That's odd.
You're walking down the hallway. The hallway is probably 20, 25 feet long. This section of rock was probably only about 10 feet, and you had floor-to-ceiling windows. So, have you ever seen, now granted, we wouldn't be able to do this since we had kids, but have you ever seen the homes where you walk in and, not an aquarium, what is it when you have the fishes in a big tank?
A koi pond?
Well, yeah, like a koi pond. And a koi would be fine. You could do a koi pond inside of your house in this cutout area, down in the floor, right next to the window. You could have a little waterfall. It would be like your own little micro environment, microclimate that you could create. How neat would that be to have in your house?
Can you imagine the smells?
You're by a window, there's airflow, you'd be fine.
You're in a hallway.
Yeah, how neat would that be? How many homes do you know that have that?
I don't know.
Exactly. It would be.
It wasn't my thing.
I could have transformed this house into something beautiful and dynamic.
If you were a millionaire.
Well, yeah, we might have needed a little bit of extra money, but that's besides the point. Money comes and goes. So the master bathroom, here's the other thing. It had a couple walls that could be opened up. I could have taken this master bathroom and converted it into one of those. It probably would have been 20 by 10, about 300 to 400 square feet. Have you ever seen those where it's completely open? You've got the shower, you've got your tub, you've got your dual vanities, which would have been massive. I could have opened it all up, waterproofed it all, tiled it all. We could have had a whole steam room in there. We could have put a sauna in there. There was so much room.
Cool.
Yeah,
sauna
would have been awesome. And then the master bedroom opened up into that U-shaped courtyard as well, which was really unique. I thought it'd be really cool to be able to, wake up, open up your bedroom door, walk out to your patio, have a cup of coffee while the birds are chirping. You've got great mature trees on the property. Again, it's irrigated. I just envision so many cool things happening.
I will say for that house, the master bedroom was the coolest part, just because it did open up to that courtyard. But the courtyard was also, it had trellises above it. Yeah. Now, all the vines were dead, but with a little bit of love and growth, you probably could have grown some more vines up there. And with bistro lights, it could have been a really cool patio for sure. I'll give it that.
It really would have been. And to be fair, the kitchen was very tiny. The house was very cut up. It wasn't open at all. It would have needed a lot of work. But the location was prime location. And the price was okay. The property needed some love, some trees cut down, some just tender love and care. If you guys haven't caught on by now for the third episode, we like homes that need a lot of tender love and care. Those tend to be the properties that we're the most drawn the most drawn to, and that we like to look at. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we did come to a decision jointly that the property would be best off with us not buying it, unfortunately. But I do really like to give Carly a hard time all the time about how cool that property would have been. It's one of my biggest regrets that we didn't buy it. Someone else bought it and did a lot of really cool stuff to it. Now, granted, it looks like they spent a lot more money than we would have spent on it. So maybe that's for the better, but I digress.
Yeah. His biggest regret is the Frank Lloyd house. My biggest regret is definitely that 5 acres that we passed on. But for next time, we are going to take you guys out to the sticks of Whitman for some homes that we've toured out there. So join us next week for some Wild West action.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you for episode number 4.